better than the Ron Burgundy version. Morning, guys.
I mean, I know that there was another panel member, and I'm not exactly sure what the process was. I mean, there's a lot of people involved in the show.
He's actually doing the show.
He is doing.
Yeah, he's the only one of us that's actually working.
No, the other panel.
There's one other panel member, and I don't know if there was a process. How do you select the panel members?
Yeah, it was like Hunger Games. We had to have a fight as to who was going to come because we couldn't afford it. So yeah, there was a little selection, which I think we have some footage of. Right?
Let's roll the footage.
Who are the other 7 missing people?
I hope they have hats. Thank you very much for the hat. Thank you all for being here. Let's talk, because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for audience questions. Let's talk a little bit about season 4, what people can expect and look forward to. Where are you guys at in the process?
We're 2 weeks from finishing series 4. We have to fly back tonight. And Benedict and I have an enormous scene to shoot on Tuesday morning.
You want to practice it here, or practice it now?
Yeah, we can have it live.
Yeah. It's about 26 pages we're doing next week.
But it's going very well.
Right. What do you think you guys have, since the start of the show? I mean, I remember when the show first, someone gave me a screener of it before it even aired. And instantly was, well, this is going to be everyone's new favorite show. Starting from that point, all these years later, how do you think the show has evolved? How do you keep the characters fresh and the relationships intense?
I haven't the faintest idea. I don't know. Well, I suppose one of the tremendous advantages that I know is very popular with this crowd is we just don't make very many. And by just not doing it very often, we're always fresh and rested when we make a new series. Something like that.
But you're essentially making 3 movies a year, though. I mean, that actually is...
3 movies every 2 years. Let's not exaggerate our tiny thing. But in the same period, it must be said, Guy Ritchie's only made 2.
Yeah.
Does he get any hassle? No.
Yeah.
We get all the hassle. We're making quite a lot. A number I've forgotten. How many?
It'll be 13 soon.
Yeah.
That's almost a season.
Yeah. Or as the Americans would say, half a season.
Yeah. So the British are very good. They'll just do 5 episodes and be like, we're good, and then that's it. You don't see anything. So why do you think, how are you guys able to continue making the show and able to come back all these years when doesn't seem very
Well, I mean, from an acting point of view, what you get when you first read those scripts is the thrill hopefully the audience gets when they see it, and it is the novelty, it's the reinvention of the wheel. That's damn near perfect from Conan Doyle's point of view, and as we know from the books, but every time it's a sort of plussing. That is a plussing of what we tried to achieve, before in previous episodes and series, and there's an evolution to all the characters. That's, as an actor, the real pleasure to play. And my God, is there a lot of that in this series. A lot of things come home to roost, which is fantastically exciting. But it's full of chicken. It's full of rooks, ravens,
birds.
Chickens, birds. Yeah, they're kind of nesting out the yeah, no, it's that really. It's the thing of what's familiar, but also what confounds expectations,
right?
And the level of invention and sheer ballsiness of it. I mean, it's a properly, I mean, what we're doing now is so ambitious, especially for television, the amount of time and budget we have. It's quite extraordinary.
And there's also there's so many great undercurrents running under the show. There's this recurring themes about addiction and broken relationships and dealing with mental health. How important was that? How important was that for you guys to?
Yes, Stephen, there is. You didn't even.
I just thought of some stories about it.
Yeah, I thought he was solving crime. What show do you think this is?
CSI Miami?
Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scooby-Doo? Yeah. I don't know if you guys...
No, well, the truth, honestly, we just tried very hard over the last 6 years to keep it evolving, and the big thing right from the beginning of doing 90-minute episodes, film-length episodes, we realized quite quickly that we had to give them a real scale, and you've got to put the characters through emotional ringer. You can't sort of just have story of the week, it's not really like that. So as a result, you have to keep the characters going somewhere. You can't have John Watson being constantly astonished by Sherlock's introductions because he would have got used to them. So you have to evolve that part of it. You have to make sure that, as Doyle did, that the Sherlock Holmes at the end of the stories is not the same man we met at the beginning. He has changed, and otherwise it's just not interesting.
I think that's one of the critical things about if you're going to do a show about a genius, you can't do a show about a genius who doesn't learn.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. He can't be the weird, scary, immoral man we met in the first episode. He just can't be. Otherwise, he's not learning, and geniuses do learn.
So I would imagine from the writers' point of view, the actors are so brilliant that it's quite nice to throw things at them and take them out of their comfort zone and give you stuff to play with, I think, as well, isn't it?
It's literally nice to throw things at a man.
Yeah. And toys to play with. Yeah.
So long as Benedict always wears the coat, and we never change the coat. I'm quite hung up on the coat.
Yes,
I'm glad you did that, because it's going to resolve a long-standing argument. Every year, Sue tells me, in a scene of domestic disharmony, that we're going to change the coat. And I said, we're not changing the coat. Because
No! Don't change it.
See, darling? Yeah?
Well, there's going to be trouble at the wheel tonight. I mean, that's how to win popularity in your marriage. Diss your wife in front of an all-age coat obsessees. I'll stick up for Sue. Sometimes that coat needs to come off for two reasons. He wears other... Yeah. Darn tootin'. That reason too.
Half of all-age might need a minute.
Yeah, well, I wear a suit under that coat, and also sometimes it's very hot, and sometimes you can see it's hot weather, so it does come off every now and again. But
We
don't actually have many.
We don't have many left.
yeah, we're running
But we
out.
have lots of coats that we try every year, because every year we do try and attempt to
Which
get
is
a new
wrong.
coat, and it never makes.
That's so...
makes the same.
You change the TARDIS almost every year, and you won't change Sherlock's coat.
It's still a police box. I don't know if you guys inside the coat, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's on the outside.
Still be a coat.
You see in the background at the beginning of that video, they had all those notes up on the board, and one of them said, Doctor Who Sherlock crossover, and then Stephen's writing, over my dead body, with a bunch of exclamation points.
I think you'll find that was my handwriting.
It's not
Oh, is
fair.
that Mark's
It's
hand?
not fair. I'm not the one who blocks the Doctor Who Sherlock.
Yeah.
It is everybody else at this table that blocks it, right?
No, it's Trump.
The first part of his plan.
We can't let these two get together.
Oh,
I like Doctor Who. I like Sherlock. I like Doctor Who. I like Sherlock. I like both. Biopic. Orange face.
I like it. That's the first time I've ever done it.
Amanda, what are you most excited about for season 4?
The 3 episodes. It's really dark. It's the darkest that Stephen and Mark have written, and yes, when we read them, all of us, when we read, we were kind of overwhelmed by them, I think,
Yeah.
because they were shocking and amazing as always. But they kind of, if we can pull this off, then it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a genuine emotional roller coaster, this series, and the learning curves are sort of,
with jokes.
With jokes, yeah, there's always a bit of
yes.
humour.
There are some great jokes.
And
There are also quite a few. Yeah. Cheers. Sorry? Drunk Sherlock.
I thought you said jump Sherlock.
Very.
I thought you said jump Sherlock.
Somebody out there should do just a specialist cosplay of drunk Sherlock. That would be really just wandering around.
Last time we were here, there were lots of people in white sheets. I can't see it.
Drunk Sherlock?
Do you know what I mean?
No, is that a
Drunk Sherlock?
Oh, yeah.
When he's on the stag do, he's getting pissed. with
He's
drunk.
good, yeah. Let it go to my mind, pal.
That's it, yeah. I thought it was that way.
Where is it?
This part from us.
We actually have, before we get to the rest of the panel and sort of talk about the series as a whole a little bit, we actually have a teaser trailer for season 4. Since you're here and everything, Please roll. How much comedy are you cutting out of each episode to sort of keep everything in balance?
We never cut jokes. Both Mark and I are definitely right in the off. Yeah. So we don't. I think one of hopefully a strength of the show is the way we look at it is if there isn't a major plot development, if there isn't a major moment of drama or a fright, we'll put some jokes in. So there's always quite a lot of gags in the show. Or they're meant to be gags. The advantage of it being a drama, if the gag doesn't work, you can just pretend it was a series.
But yeah, it's like I always say this, it's like life. I think there's such a false distinction between comedy and drama. Life is always a mixture of the two. We've talked about this today, the times you feel the most under pressure to behave, the times you get hysterical and slightly laugh about things, and as in life, your release from a terrible dramatic situation is often humour, and that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be a false distinction, it has to be all po-faced or all straightforward comedy.
But what's great is that in the beginning of the series, a lot of the jokes were very meta jokes about the concept of that you were doing a Sherlock series, and they really evolved into the relationships between the two of you. So are you improvising at all on the set between you and Martin?
No, there's not much room for improvisation. But this is a very musically tight, brilliant, conceived piece of music. You can't. It's not jazz. I mean, there's jazz in the sense of how you deliver it. Absolutely, there is. And there's always an involvement Martin and I have with going, I'd like to try this or not that, and there's that. But it's minutiae, and beyond that, no, there's no improvisation. It's about how we do it rather than what we do. What we're doing is what we sign up for, which is gloriously written scripts, and it's a treat, so you don't really want to muck around. There are moments, actually, I'm trying to think in this particular series as well, where it does get looser for good reason. In every regard, I mean, psychologically with what Sherlock goes through and what Morstan goes through, and what we all go through. Which, the form of it being that sort of, I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, there's a looseness, but you've got a very strict tempo to obey with the scripts. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
No, it's fine. No, not at all. Please don't. I mean, you have to understand they all flew in to come to LA. I mean, to San Diego for 2 days. I know. I'm sorry. Sorry. People have real conversations here. My apologies. But they came here basically just for 2 days, and then they're immediately going straight back to work. I mean, you guys
we did a week of night shoots and all sorts before we got here as well. Hello, that sounded like a cat.
What's it called? It's a meow.
And we had a lot of cake, didn't we, Benedict?
Catlock.
We had a lot of cake last week.
A lot of cake? We had a lot of cake last week, yeah. I had to hit the track.
Somebody's birthday.
Happy. Don't do it. Oh shit, look what I started. Do you have happy birthday, Mr. President?
What's going on? I need more sleep. Taking on close.
This is the longest birthday in history.
Thinking about it.
There you go.
Thank you for your level of commitment. I like that this section was like, no, we started and we're not stopping this train.
Wow, that was weird.
Amanda, Mary's art was incredible last night. And legitimately did not see it coming. How does this process work in terms of, at the beginning of the season, they sit you down and go, this is what's going to happen, or do you not find out?
I didn't know I was going to be an assassin until the 3rd episode when I read it. But I'd been told by Stephen and Mark that she had a very dark past and a big secret, and that would be kind of cataclysmic in the 3rd episode. Little did I know I'd have to shoot the hero. But when I read that, I was with Martin when I read it, and I looked at him and I went, they're going to hate me for doing that. And actually, but it's what an amazing thing to play. What an amazing character to play. I think she's so well-rounded as a character, and she's tricky, and she's independent, and she's sassy, and she's dangerous. And I think that's great for a female actor to play. I love it.
If the roles were reversed, would you have read the 5? If the roles
I would, if I'd have Would I have read the third if I had it?
No, would you have read the file about your partner's past? Would you have read
Oh God, I would. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll read anything. Yeah, anything to do with anybody's past, I'm all over that. Yeah, but no, I'm okay. Yeah, I think that's really cool that he never reads it. I think that it's a really good, it's a really interesting. It just means John's moral.
It's just full of cat videos.
Yeah. And pictures of my puppy.
It's quite good though you didn't know them.
Yeah.
All those into the first.
Absolutely, and I would have played it differently had I known that that's what. But that was the outcome in episode 3. I would have played her with more of an edge and more knowing. But the beauty of not knowing was that you thought, oh, because she's a real mild-mannered, very sweet, charming character, and actually she was ruthless. And I kind of like that the payoff of that was so intense in episode 3.
Yeah, because now every character, the characters really could have just been all one-dimensional. I think people would have been fine with that. But now, even the fact that your character kind of makes John address the fact that he is addicted to drama, and there's all this PTSD and all this danger stuff that's going on.
They're all flawed. That's what I love about the writing. Every character in this series is flawed in some way, and that's so much more interesting to watch and to play. I'd much rather watch a flawed character, because you kind of then you can't help but like them, or you judge them. And that's what we're supposed to do. I think that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to judge your characters. And I quite like that.
Mrs. Hudson, I'm not getting more and more.
She suddenly comes out with all these things, it's like, you were married to a trustee, how is that possible? It's totally plausible because of the writing.
Because it's Una, that's why it's plausible.
How had you planned that, Stephen and Mark? Had you planned that arc from the very beginning of that season?
The Amanda one or the...
Yeah, the Amanda one.
Yeah, absolutely. I deliberately made the show a bit lighter in the first 2 episodes. Veering it towards comedy almost, so that and you get sort of a third of the way into his last five, and it's still quite funny.
Yeah.
And then she turns round, and everything you've been told up until that point is a dirty lie.
Right.
Which I always like that to happen at some point in the day, because that's the truth of your life. Everyone's lying. An assassin.
So all those moments, you're keeping an eye on all those moments that are seemingly innocuous moments, that are very subtle, that people would never point out. Even just she has an amazing, eye for detail, and she remembers things. You've already planned which scenes those are going to be, but you don't tell her because you don't want her to...
Well, we wanted it to be perfect. We wanted her to disguise to be perfect. But if you do look at it, she works out the skip code in a moment, and you see Sherlock register, that's odd, and then get carried away with saving John. You see the speed with which she remembers the room number and the sign of 3. All those things are there.
A blizzard of words around her. It says liar amongst all the other stuff.
Yeah.
He's sort of subconsciously talking those things. But actually, I wouldn't say there's an actor in this series who has to sort of have pretended to know something, and he was unsure about what he knew when. And I was sort of trying to take it through, and I said, just pretend you know nothing. And it is actually easier when you're trying to disguise yourself, rather than playing the result. If you're actually saying, oh, I have a secret, it's actually better not to know, because then you don't present anything.
Right.
And then we don't give anything away to the audience. There are no tells.
Right. The Victorian special was amazing, Abominable Bride. In terms of, I think I sort of expected it to be, well, this is a standalone, this is a separate sort of fun thing that we're going to do.
Well, you expected that because we explicitly told you that's what it was.
Yes.
She shows the power of lying.
Back to Trump! Yay!
Someone's going to make a meme of your face, Stephen, and it's just going to say, liar, 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 liar.
Secret hidden dead.
In fairness, I do say that I'm lying. And then I lie, and people get cross.
But maybe,
in fact, I told you.
Maybe you're lying then. It's like trying to answer the question, is it opposite day? You can't answer that question.
You can't lie all the time. You've got to lie some of the time. That way no one can trust you at any point.
Write that down, kids. Write that down.
That's how it works.
The basis for marriage.
There's the basis of
Hello. So, what was the decision to tie everything back in, and how did you decide to sort of make it part of this mind palace journey and weave it into where the last episode left off?
Well, it's sort of the idea began as a not really as a joke, just something we sort of batted around, it'd be fun, and we thought it would be fantastic that really the only two Holmes and Watson had ever done modern day and period were Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce, and we thought it would be brilliant. You know, to go really right back to the beginning, and sort of treat it. If we'd had the idea to just do Sherlock Holmes as it usually is, it would still be that was the show we would have done. So it wasn't suddenly very sort of fusty, slow paced, etc. It would be Sherlock, but in that period. But we just had this narrow window where we could make it special, where everyone's diaries worked, and it was kind of the only time we could tell that story was in those 5 minutes before playing that. And then we just obviously had to fib about it and just say it was a standalone because it looked like we'd gone crazy.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun, wasn't it? I mean, it was the really, really odd thing is that when we first began, quite a lot of press did ask us, you know, how can you do Sherlock Holmes without gas lamps and hansom cabs? And then we did some press for the special, and a couple of them said, well, how can Sherlock Holmes exist in a world without iPhones? Well, we've done something right. There is some precedent for it.
It was great. It was such fun to play. I mean, it's a joy that we managed to sort of straddle both eras, and I'm very happy in Victorian garb. Not least because we talked about the coat box, that doesn't appear too much in that one. But the hair is just so much easier having slick back hair. I'll tell you, I spent longer in that chair getting my hair what is it, diffused in colour?
What is the Sherlock hair process for cosplayers?
It takes too long.
Well, they all know.
It's too long
It's
to
twisted and
explain.
fused. Yeah. I think it's got its own hashtag somewhere. Yeah.
I noticed Victorian Sherlock was a little bit different than modern day.
As he should be, yeah. I mean, I think, you know, he projects with some degree of accuracy into a past. I mean, you've got Molly Hooper pretending to be a man. You've got all sorts of things that are slightly sort of unfeasible in a real Victorian era, I suppose. No, it's exactly true. But yeah, as far as Sherlock goes, yeah, I wanted him to be more stiff. I wanted, if that is possible, with sort of a straighter back, and just a little bit crueler and of that era. So a little bit more clipped in his dialect, a little bit more sort of crisp and polite to what era he was in, and. Yeah, there's something slightly more severe. The edges that are being rounded, I think, by Watson, the overarching humanisation in our version, were kind of retrograded a bit, and that was fun to play with. Really good fun to play with. And
we also ended up with an unexpected thing, really, in that last scene where the credits roll and then it suddenly goes back to Baker Street, and Sherlock says to John, "This is my idea of what the future might be like." So, which really poses the possibility that the entire series, our series, is just the fevered imaginings of a real Victorian man. So maybe the whole thing is just a Victorian man's idea of the future.
Don't stop.
So I guess we infer that because you're playing with time, it is technically a Doctor Who crossover.
As close as you'll ever get.
But it does seem to allow you the possibility to jump back and forth. Episodes. Do you foresee that ever?
I don't think so. I think that was the time we could do it, and the obvious one to do is to do it in the original, authentic Victorian year, just to see it once that way. Mark and I are, of course, obsessed with the idea that one day we could do the 1940s propaganda movie where they fight the Nazis like Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. But you know, if we announce that, we've lost our minds.
No, it's not out of two.
Got 2017. Very excited. What is the relationship dynamic between Sherlock and Mycroft is a little bit different in Abominable Bride. So I'm thick-headed, so I sort of missed what is happening with the pudding, and what is that dynamic?
Well, in the original stories, Mycroft is enormously fat, and obviously to go into the Victorian one, we thought we'd go for the full Mr. Creosote. We talked about that for years.
Yeah.
And how much fun that would be. And then this idea of that they actually have a bet on how long he's going to live.
That's what I'm wondering about. Why?
Well, because the whole thing is in Sherlock's head. He's just basically having some fun.
Really cruel.
Yeah. What you have to imagine is that the whole thing is actually taking place at lightning speed in his head. But along the way, he's having fun.
turning his brother into Jabba the Hutt.
Yes, he's making John a bit more like Nigel Bruce, etc., and having fun. But then that's one of the ways he's just poking the finger at his brother.
But also,
meat puddings.
And it was meant to be funny, Chris.
it is funny. It was funny.
Meant to be a joke. It just asked us to
I just
explain
took it
a
as-
joke in public in front
No.
of 7,000 people. We're
Listen.
humiliated now.
Stephen, I just took it as a very serious, dramatic moment.
Which you asked about.
No, the reason that I asked is because I was trying to figure out, and now that you've explained, I understand that the relationship is so kind of toxic that Mycroft would usher his own death to win a bet with his brother, essentially.
Why not?
So what can we expect from Mycroft in season 4?
Less pudding.
Less one.
True.
Can't tell you really. We have a lot of fun
Me too.
this season, and a lot of things are resolved. A lot of things are raised.
I'm not saying anything. Yeah, it's an involving relationship.
But you
That's
started
what you're saying.
peeking into, toward the end of last season, you really did start peeking into the idea that Mycroft really loves him. And he even...
Of course he loves
Yeah.
him. It's like he...
Well, that goes both ways, definitely. You know.
He wants him on the inside of the tent, hissing out. He can't bear...
Not literally, that would be strange.
He can't bear the fact that this amazingly intelligent brother is not part of his establishment. That's what it is. It all comes from a place of caring. It's just he doesn't really know how to express it.
That's in the first episode.
Yeah.
In the very first episode, it's cold and strange what he does, but he is worried about his brother, and that's why he asks Dr. Watson to spy on him. It's not a conventional thing to do with a family member, but he's not a conventional person. He always cares.
recently there was a picture of Sherlock with a dog. So
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
It's a bloodhound.
It was the best thing we could do on the day with that dog was take photographs. It wouldn't fucking move.
It wouldn't move.
We used the expression we were sold a pup, but
The stage directions were, he gets dragged around London by a voracious bloodhound, and it literally, the owner said, yeah, it doesn't like concrete much.
And it doesn't like crowds. It doesn't like pavement.
Doesn't like people.
Doesn't like people.
We were in a
doesn't like
market in
sky.
London.
It's not an urban dog. Brilliant.
Fantastic. We found our perfect match for an urban scene with a dog that's supposed to drag.
There's one point I was literally pulling and I pulled and just ended up on my back just because he just wouldn't move. He was lovely, very affectionate, but just sat there for the whole time. And we ended up getting a bit hysterical, didn't we? We were kind of just like, Ben and I were going, this is insane.
And we have to work very, very hard to play Sherlock Holmes in London.
There's no point you're being
and Eliza are being self-conscious, and then you have a bit of slathering concrete on a bit of a lead. It just loses all semblance.
But in the end, you remember, I had to have a prop man, and he was holding the lead. And he was out of shot, pulling me along, because the dog was over there having a fag and a beer.
When you see the episode, there's actually a scene about that Mark and I wrote standing on the pavement to account for the fact
I thought
that
it
the dog wouldn't
8:45.
move.
You talk about improvisation, that was a hastily improvised. We literally had to account for the fact the dog would not do what it was supposed to do. So it's actually the nicest bit in it. I think this dog is just hopeless. We have to account for the fact it's a totally static dog. Never work with anyone.
What about the fact, getting to the next season and a baby, and how does that change the dynamic?
Yeah, no, how? It's amazing, isn't it? Can't say. I can't say.
That's specifics. How do you think?
Well, we fight. She's pregnant when we open. She's pregnant. She's more pregnant than an elephant. She's got the longest gestation period I've ever known. But
It is an element.
there is. Yeah, I don't know. The baby. The features. The baby features. And also, I never worked with babies either.
No, actually, compared to the dog, the
I was
baby's
wearing a
fine.
navy blue shirt, and God bless her, she was a beautiful baby, or he. And projectile vomited all over me. So
And went over, and the baby went over and had a cigarette. I'm done.
yeah, I was having a bag of quite a bit in the
Yeah, off to the side.
But we used many babies, and they were all very, very sweet and lovely. But it's very difficult trying to get, you know, when you're doing a scene when you're supposed to be carrying a baby and doing stuff, and it's the end of the day, and they're tired, obviously, because they're babies, and yeah, it's.
We got newborn babies. It surprises me that somebody would give their newborn baby over for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the producer, you are though. I need someone out there to give our baby a gift. No, it's a strange thing, and obviously babies are on a schedule, so it's always tricky. You can't match necessarily what we're doing in film with the baby's routine. So
You have a baby now.
Yeah. Ben is a baby.
Do you want to know how little you're learning about series? We are actually talking about working with children and animals. That's the level of secrecy.
Well, then what can you say about season 4? Because I think part of the
Nothing.
Nothing.
We're not saying anything.
You're not saying anything at all.
It's all the trailer.
Yeah, you get an idea, don't you? I mean, you know exactly what's going on in that. So
Helicopters.
that's all you really.
Well, then we should open up the floor to questions.